Landlords in Los Angeles who filed a lawsuit to challenge the local eviction moratorium finally got that lawsuit to the Supreme Court, but they refused to hear it. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have bad news for landlords up in Los Angeles. So there had been a challenge against the local eviction moratorium there by local landlords. And, it had been defeated by the local federal judge. And then, they appealed up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And of course, the very, very far left-leaning Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, they rejected it. They saw, there's no problem. It's not unconstitutional. Of course, these progressives who they've packed the court with would believe that. But, they thought, okay, if we can get this thing up to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court has already ruled that the CDC eviction moratorium was unconstitutional. So maybe they'll tear this one down as well. Well, unfortunately, that is not what happened, okay? And they refused to hear it. And I'm pretty surprised by this, okay? I thought for sure that, hey, this is a very, very, conservative Supreme Court. They're more right-leaning, and they're going to take these eviction moratoriums up and rip them apart. Well, that's not what happened, okay? And yeah, this article I'm going to go over today, it's going to go over all the details of exactly why it happened the way it did. Now, I don't understand the logic behind it, but they didn't fight this eviction moratorium, this local eviction moratorium in Los Angeles with the same way that they tried to fight the CDC's eviction moratorium. So they were saying that, hey, this is a violation of the Constitution's contract clause, right? And while I think that's a good argument, I think that it had a much stronger argument that it was an unconstitutional taking of private property for public use, the Fifth Amendment violation. So I wish they had been fighting it, from that perspective or from all perspectives. But, because they were using this contracts clause provision, I think that weakened the case. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Are you surprised that the U.S. Supreme Court didn't take up this case? I mean, can you believe they actually have left an eviction moratorium in place? At this point in time, now we've seen a federal judge throw out the mask mandate just recently. I mean, we've seen, the other eviction moratoriums fall. All of the federal regulations have fallen, but they've allowed these local regulations to stay in place, even though they are, basically unconstitutional as well. And that is surprising, okay? I can't believe that they would allow unconstitutional things to happen just because they're happening locally. I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, but let's get into this article and see what it says. All right, and so this is coming from LAist.com, and it says, LA's eviction moratorium holds as Supreme Court refuses to hear landlord's challenge. Oh, bad news for landlords, but let's see what it says. Los Angeles landlords have failed in their legal quest to overturn the city's eviction moratorium. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to take up an appeal from the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. The decision effectively leaves in place the City of LA's ongoing eviction protections for renters negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We had hoped the makeup of the court would give us a fair hearing, said AAGLA Executive Director Dan Yuckelson. Obviously, they decided it was not an issue that they were willing to take up. The decision could empower the City of LA to continue this thing with no end in sight. Yeah, and that's the problem right there, okay? There will perpetually, forever, be people who are negatively impacted by COVID or by some illness. And, the city of LA could literally just say, hey, these eviction protections will last forever. And Los Angeles landlords would have nothing they could do about it because the Supreme Court decided, oh, well, you know what? The city can pause constitutional rights during anything they deem as a crisis. Anything, and there's no I've never heard in my life, before all of this nonsense began, anyone saying that, hey, constitutional rights can be paused. No, I mean, they cannot be paused. They are rights that can't be taken away. That's why we wrote the Constitution, okay? And if a government can step in there and just take away people's rights anytime willy-nilly they feel like it, then there's no point in having a Constitution. Oh, man. All I can say is get out of LA, okay? Get out of California. Get out of these places where they're even doing this, okay? Continue to fight. Fight it from a different angle. But, this case is dead, at least the way I'm looking at it. It's dead, and there's no getting around it. Tenant advocates hailed the decision as a victory for local governments that passed policies to protect renters from losing their homes during a deadly and economically perilous pandemic. It should provide our local leaders some measure of comfort that their emergency protections have continued to be upheld in court, said Faiza Malik, a senior staff attorney with Public Counsel, a public interest law firm that helped defend the city's policy. I think this is a huge win for the city, she said. And, here's the problem, right? They're still peddling the lie that, we're in the midst of the worst pandemic. Like, listen, okay? We have 75% plus of adults who are vaccinated right now. 75% plus, okay? That's 3/4 of the population of adults who are eligible are vaccinated, okay? And, the variant of concern right now that is going around is mild, okay? So the hospitalization rate and the death rate is much, much, much lower than it was before. We have treatments for the people who are sick that are better than before, okay? And simply put, the crisis that started in March of 2020 it's not the same thing that's going on right now. We are more than 2 years. We're 25 months beyond the beginning of this stuff, okay? And so with all of the knowledge that we've gained, with all of the things that have changed, the fact that so many people have, either immunity from the vaccine or from natural immunity, etc., this is not the horrible crisis that it was before. Now, are we going through some financial challenges right now? Yes, we are. However, that doesn't mean that unemployment hasn't declined. That doesn't mean that things are not getting better. Things are all opened back up, yet they keep these eviction protections in place. How long? We're 2 years into it. Oh, it's just temporary. No, it's not. Okay, 2 years is not temporary. 2 years is, that could be more than people have left to live in their lives. Some people, they didn't survive to ever get paid their rent again, okay? We are in a place now where we need to get back to normal, and you have almost everything. Every other business has been allowed to return to normal operations, okay? Everything has been opened back up. Heck, they've even taken the masks away from people who are flying on planes, and yet landlords still are, they're put in this position where, no, you can't evict because, everybody is still under their pandemic. No, you're living in fantasy. They're lying, okay? They're lying. That's what this is really about. They are lying to everyone and saying, hey, we're doing this because of the pandemic. Well, they're not doing it because of the pandemic. And I've told you this before, okay? The reason they're doing this is because they're passing socialist policies, okay? They want socialist housing. That's what they're doing. They're trying to strip landlords of their property rights, and they see this as the perfect opportunity. They see this as the opportunity to take landlords' properties away from them, to implement policies where, the government will take care of you. We're going to give you, here's your stimulus check, here's your housing, you don't own anything anymore. No, you don't have a right to anything. The government is your master now. That's what this is. This is about socialism. This is about, stripping people of their property rights. This is about, their communal living or whatever garbage that they've been trying to push for so long. And they see that the pandemic is the perfect opportunity for it. Contract meddling or appropriate and reasonable protection. AAGLA first sued the city in the summer of 2020. The group representing local property owners argued the city's eviction moratorium illegally meddled with lease contracts signed by landlords and tenants. By preventing landlords from evicting non-paying tenants, AAGLA said the city's rules violated the Contracts Clause of the Constitution. But last year, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals examined the case and disagreed. The court said that given the severe financial fallout from the pandemic, the city's eviction moratorium was appropriate and reasonable way to advance a significant and legitimate public purpose. Yeah, so they said, well, because of, the severe financial impacts of the pandemic, we can cancel the Constitution. Like, wait a second here. They didn't do that during the Great Depression back in 1929. They didn't do it back in the Great Recession. But now, because of the pandemic, we can just cancel all of the Constitution, right? Nope, you can't. Okay, that's why they were fighting this. They were saying, hey, our contracts are not void just because there's a tough economic time going on right now. Okay? But, I disagree with this decision by, the Supreme Court not to hear this. I disagreed with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals' ridiculous decision. But, like I said, there's probably no way they can continue fighting it under this argument right now. My suggestion, of course, still is to leave, okay? To get the heck out of this place, to get out of this left-leaning dunghole, okay? And go somewhere where you're treated right, okay? Do like Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist says, okay? Go where you're treated right. Now, I don't think you have to go out of the country. I think you can go to a different state, a different city, a different place where you actually still have your property rights, where landlords aren't treated as the enemy, where socialists don't run everything and want to just rip your money away from you. And no, you're not going to get that, mega appreciation like you do in California. But hey, if you have to deal with this nonsense, eventually you're going to reach the point of no return where you're going to not be able to make money anymore and the government is going to take your property.